It's time for another edition of the Debt Relief Radio Show. Perhaps you've joined us before, perhaps not, but we're glad you're here today, March the 20th, as we have entered spring. And Ziona Kopalovic, and I'll be able to say that real well by the end of the show again. Ziona Kopalovic is our guest, and of course, the Debt Relief Law Offices are her law offices. Ziona, welcome back.
Well, it's so good to be back here.
Okay.
This is such a wonderful opportunity for
Pull
me.
that toward you a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is such a wonderful opportunity for me to talk to you again and to talk to your audience.
Yep.
And educate them as to the possibility of getting away from the problems that keep them down.
Yeah,
So,
especially when it comes, and we talk primarily about bankruptcies and which bankruptcy is, would be best for you, if bankruptcy is best for you. And Ziona is the person to tell you that. So if you'd like to call during the course of the show, that's why she's here. Talk to you free of charge. In fact, she does free consultations at her office as well.
that is correct.
But you can call her right now and get to know her a little bit at 796-7272 or 277-5919 in Hernando County. Or if you want to call from anywhere else on the Nature Coast, it's a toll-free number available to you, 1-888-613-2050, and she'll be more than happy to discuss your situation without names and all. We can discuss in general terms.
That is correct. In fact, if you remember, 2 weeks ago, there was a gentleman who called in, and he just gave us a general idea of what his problem was.
Yeah.
And part of it was misinformation that he had, and he did show up for an appointment.
Good for him.
He did, and we talked, and he decided to become our client.
So we got a client.
We got a client.
We nailed one. And that's what we're here for. So people that have the problems can...
And we're going to solve. It's not just me getting a client. It is solving that
the problem.
person's problem, bringing the problem to a satisfactory resolution. And that's what we are doing for him.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm happy to announce that. So to recapture, what do? I love helping people, and I help them put their financial problems back into the box, into size. So if your credit cards are overwhelming you, if your mortgage payments are overwhelming you, if creditors are calling, or you cannot get even simple credit to buy a car because you have overextended yourself, then I'm there to offer you a solution to get rid of your old debt. Simply discharge it, walk away from it, and start your financial life anew. We can do that by filing either a Chapter 7 bankruptcy, a Chapter 13 bankruptcy, or at times we can negotiate those numbers down. We can negotiate the debt down to make it go away. To recapture, what is Chapter 7? Mm-hmm. Chapter 7, basically, you exchange a forgiveness of your debts, typically credit card debts, hospital, medical debts. You exchange that for the willingness to give up assets that are not protected by law. Well, the good news is that most assets that you own are protected by law. So when we put you in a Chapter 7, chances are that you will not have to give up anything. The only thing you walk away from is your debt. And this is the problem that is possibly keeping you up awake at night and makes you hesitate to answer the telephone when you're worried that it's a creditor calling you, not necessarily your next door neighbor. So that's Chapter 7.
Well, I want to tell you something else I learned about Chapter 7 that you taught me before you go to 13.
Yes.
And that is because a lot of people worry that, you go to Chapter 7, it's on your credit report, and therefore you have no credit for the next 10 years. And you pointed out that with a lot of people, the credit becomes more available because the people that are extending the credit know you have no debts.
That's correct.
And I had never thought of that till you brought that up. They look at you and they say, yeah, he went bankrupt, but guess what? Now he's debt-free.
Now you're good.
Yeah,
right.
And he's got this income, and,
Right. So a lot of times the bankruptcy event comes not because you're a deadbeat.
Yeah.
Okay. It is because you've had medical issues. you've had family issues, you could have been in a car accident, the market going upside down on us, with the housing market.
Yes,
So
I do
there
know
are
that.
a lot of economic forces around us over which we have no control. And we do our best to manage those financial hurdles. But at times we just can't. It's just the market forces are way too powerful. Now, most people, when they come to me, their credit is already compromised. They can no longer get the same kind of credit that they used to be able to.
So they can't get the credit anyway.
They can't get it, right?
So why are they worrying about 7 years and 10 years when they don't have any to begin with?
Well, they're worried because they don't know what's on the other side. It's lack of information. But once you file, it takes about 1 year to 2 years to reestablish credit. And then you can move on. You can move on with your life. So actually, it's a solution. And creditors look at your debt-to-income ratio. And after a bankruptcy, your debt-to-income ratio is a lot better looking than what it was before you got rid of all your unsecured debt.
Yeah, and does the credit reports, because I don't really look at them much, does it show, like, for an example, if I had to, thank goodness I don't have to, so I'm grateful. But if I had to do a Chapter 7, does that indicate to creditors that at least the person is honest, has stepped forward, is trying to straighten the situation out, and isn't a deadbeat? Doesn't that indicate they're not deadbeats?
Well, if you're not an honest
or does the report
person,
say that?
The report will say that the debt was discharged in bankruptcy. It will mark that. But you have to understand that if you're not honest, the court will not give you a discharge.
Right.
Bankruptcy is for the honest but unfortunate debtor.
Exactly my point.
Okay? So if you're not honest, if you're dishonest, you will not get a discharge. It's as simple as that.
That's exactly. So that's what I want people to understand. But that the discharge means that this is an honest person, not a deadbeat, and the creditors are going to see it that way. That's the real point I was trying to make. It's not all negative news at Chapter 7 bankruptcy.
In fact, I have, for example, realtors who send clients to me because they have so much debt they cannot buy a home. After the bankruptcy, the debt-to-income ratio looks so much better, and then they can sell a home with the right financing because now the credit has become available, whereas before it was not available.
Okay. Very good. Now let's move in, and so that the people that have missed your definition or your talk about Chapter 13, where are we going with that one?
Okay. Chapter 13 is for someone who has income. You have to have income, regular income, to file a Chapter 13. And the purpose of a 13 is a little bit different. Mainly, we use a Chapter 13 when the assets that you have are over or exceed what Florida law will protect for you, or what the local law will protect for you. So if you have assets that are not protected by law, and creditors, if they wanted to, after obviously judicial proceedings, they could take those assets away from you, Chapter 13 is there to protect those assets for you so that no one could take them. Or we use Chapter 13 in cases where your income is higher than the median for a family your size. Okay, so if you make a little bit more money than what most people do, then you cannot file a Chapter 7. You have to file a Chapter 13. Unless, of course, there's a caveat, your expenses are higher than the average. So at times you make more money, but your expenses are horrendous. You might be able to file a Chapter 7.
And one thing people need to remember, too, is that mortgage modification thing you do, which you closed one a couple weeks ago.
We did.
And that's another very important part of what we're talking about here. If you're sitting there underwater having problems, come talk to Ziona and again, I didn't give it at the beginning. I usually give it at the beginning and the end. At the Debt Relief Law Offices of Tampa Bay, located 5422 Trouble Creek Road. Get your pencil, so if you miss it now, You can get it at the end of the show. That's in Newport Richey. Our telephone number is 727-849-3328.
That is correct.
All right. Yeah, that mortgage modification is kind of part of that 13, right?
Okay, there's several things that we can do with a mortgage. If you, for example, if you don't want your home anymore, so either in a 7 or a 13, you can just get rid of that entire headache. If it is a headache for you,
you can rid of the whole headache.
Just get rid of it, the whole thing. It is, you can surrender the home. However, if you want to keep the home and you fell behind on your mortgage payments, a Chapter 13 will allow you to catch up on the arrears, on the payments that you have not made. Mm-hmm. And you will have up to 5 years to catch up on those payments. You will not be penalized for it. I mean, life becomes easier in a way. You pay the regular mortgage payment and then 1/60th of the arrears every month until you catch up on the arrears. So that's one thing that we can do, help you catch up on arrears. Mm-hmm. Or let's say that you're upside down on your mortgage, and a lot of us are upside down on our mortgage.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
So in that case, if you're upside down on the mortgage and you have a second mortgage, then guess what? We can get rid of that second mortgage totally.
Yeah.
You keep the first mortgage, albeit still upside down, but you get rid of the second mortgage. And if you had a third mortgage or a line of credit, we get rid of those as well.
And then all of a sudden you have the money.
And then you have the money. You know what? You can go to a restaurant. You can go to a movie. Maybe you can go on vacation. I don't know. But you know what? You can sleep at night because you're not there worried. How on earth am I going to make my payment? Am I going to lose my car? Am I going to lose my home? These are difficult issues for people to deal with. Now,
absolutely.
I want to go back to what you've mentioned, the mortgage modification.
Okay. And
we have done that a few weeks ago for, we got a very good modification for a client where due to the kind of government programs that are available today, the bank agreed to reduce the principal debt on the residence from $170,000 to $110,000. So they were about $60,000 forgiven. Not only that, the homeowner had not been paying the mortgage for the last 2 years. That was forgiven as well.
You're kidding.
I'm not.
I don't remember you mentioning that.
I'm not.
2 years was forgiven.
2 years worth of arrears were forgiven. The mortgage balance went from 170 to 110. New start.
Did the payments come down?
And the payments came down. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. They came down from about $1,100 to $700 or something.
So that kind of thing's available.
That is available. Absolutely. And this is so sweet. The interest rate went down to 2% for the life of the loan. 2%.
2%.
2% for the life of the loan. I mean, this is sweet.
That's a nice deal.
It is a wonderful deal.
Now, was that made with a mortgage company, a bank? Who was that made with?
It was actually Bank of America.
Bank of America.
I know
you don't have to say
all
it, but
hear horror stories.
Yeah, I hear many horror stories about them.
I can tell you they were wonderful.
They gave him a deal, that's for sure.
They gave him a tremendous deal. Now, did we have to be patient with the bank? Yes. Did we have to be patient with the employees and the people that we were negotiating with? Absolutely.
Yeah, you said it took a couple of tough meetings.
It took about four meetings, that we had to go back, not lose our temper, be patient.
Does your client go with you to these meetings?
Yes.
They go to every meeting?
They go to every meeting. The client sees, hears, feels what happens. And obviously it has to be a commitment on the part of the homeowner too. They have to want to stay in the house, and they have to do whatever is required of them to cooperate so that we can bring them to the point where the bank will say, all right, you got your modification.
And you said something very good. I think it's very good. I'm going to find out right now. You said we got to be patient. We got to be nice. If I go in there with the right attitude,
absolutely,
I'm going to do better with the bank or the mortgage company than I'm going to do if I go in there with a snoot. Is that what you're telling me?
Absolutely.
Really? It makes a difference?
You can get more with honey than with a sting.
The whole thing's the same. Even in this, it's the same thing.
In negotiation, I mean, you have to know when to be tough, when to draw a line. You have to know that. but you can't just go in with blazing guns and say, you owe me, you owe me. No, just
Because
these are
a lot of people need to understand the banks and the mortgage companies don't really want these houses back.
No, they don't want.
They don't want
houses
them back.
No,
they want to work something.
They want
out.
money.
Yeah,
they want money.
Exactly.
They're in the business of money. They're not in the business of selling homes.
Yeah, exactly. And I can tell you for a fact, in my own experience, they don't want these houses back. They'll work with you, and that's what she does. That's what Ziona's specialty is as an attorney, and she'll be your attorney, Ziona Kopolovich.
Ziona, can I say it?
Ziona Kopolovich.
Ziona Kopolovich,
yeah.
Right? That's with Debt Relief Law Offices on Tampa Bay, of Tampa Bay, I'm sorry. And we're in Newport Richey at 5422 Trouble Creek Road, Newport Richey, area code 813.
No,
849. I'm sorry.
727 here.
All right. Sorry. I was going to give you my cell phone number, which is okay.
Which is okay too, yeah.
Area code 727-849-3328. And Shannon is there waiting for your phone
call. Right this minute. She's sitting there right now saying, why don't they call? All right. We're not at the end of the show yet, but go ahead.
No. But I have, I brought a few more examples of relief that we have been able to give to our clients in the past. So we had a client in a Chapter 13, and he was in a Chapter 13. He and his wife were in a Chapter 13 because they wanted to save their home. They were trying to catch up. Plus, they had a problem. Well, I mean, it's not really a problem. They made too much money to be in a Chapter 7, and they had assets that were not protected.
They wanted to protect.
So they obviously were not clients for Chapter 7. But unfortunately, the client, the husband became ill, and he was no longer able to work. So his income went down. I mean, he was receiving aid from the government, but he was not able to maintain his home, and so he decided to surrender it, but he could not maintain the high payments that he had to pay because of his income. Because of the assets, we could not convert him to a Chapter 7. He still had assets that were not protected, but we were able to bring down his payments to the bankruptcy court or to the trustee from $1,100 to $59 a month.
My goodness.
$59 a month. Kept all of his assets, his cars.
Did the court rule that, or did the court rule?
That was done by court order because we had to go in and modify the prior order.
That's an incredible.
It was incredible, and that man was able to get his discharge. So, once he got done with the program. So
it saved his house even though he was ill.
Great relief. That was a great relief that we were able to bring the payments down to that extent.
That's an amazing story.
So it's not everything about what we do is happy, because I do deal with people who are ill at times, people who have been in accidents, people who become sick.
Things happen.
Yeah. Life happens. But
life happens.
Life happens, right? But we try to put things back in order so you can take what you have today and just move on to make life a little bit easier. Another example, we had another client that is before the time that the court was referring us to modifications. So people were sort of like hanging out there trying to modify mortgages on their own. We were in a Chapter 13, and the clients were, they reached an agreement with a bank to modify a mortgage. Again, the payments went down from about $1,200 to $700 a month. And that was it was not a permanent, it was just a trial modification. And that trial modification with the bank lasted a year and a half. Usually these trial payments are supposed to last 3 months, but they lasted because the court...
I didn't even know there was such a thing as a trial modification.
Yeah, when you go for modification, they give you a trial modification. Before they go into the permanent. But there was no court supervision at that point, and the bank just dragged it. And finally, we just wrote a letter to the mortgage company, and we told them, if you don't give us the permanent modification, you're going to end up with a house. The house is going to be yours. And you know what? We're going to sue you because you will have caused the loss of the house. Within 3 days, we got the permanent modification.
Wow.
3 days after a year and a half.
So
the client was able to get a temporary modification, a trial modification, was not able to finish it, was not able to bring it to a permanent status.
He was able to do that part himself.
The first
and then he
part.
came to you.
And he was stuck.
Mm-hmm.
He was stuck. And then we sent him a letter, and we were a little bit, we took out the sting rather than the honey. And the client ended up with the honey because he did get the modification that he needed. And there was a resolution.
What is the reason? That I've never heard of a trial modification. Is that? What is the reason? What is the loan company trying to get from that?
This is the law. They give you 3 months. They call it a trial modification to see if you're going to make the payments, if you're able to make the payments.
On the trial amount.
On the new deal. And if you make 3 successful payments, they say, okay, then it's supposed to convert from a trial modification to a permanent.
But they don't always do it. That's when you got to write the letter.
That's when we wrote the letter, right? And we got it transferred from a trial modification.
As soon as they got the letter, they changed it.
They did.
That's nice.
They did. And it's so satisfying. Let me tell you, it's so satisfying to see people who come. They are so nervous. They're so upset.
Sure.
They just don't know which way to turn. They cry. They're so upset. And then to be able to tell a client, guess what? We got it. The joy and the smiles are just worth the headache.
They're worth the work.
It's worth it. It's worth it.
So you're enjoying. I can tell by your face that you're enjoying doing this stuff. I mean, this is like really self-gratifying.
It is. Yeah. It is. I love doing that.
And you can, and we got 1 minute left, so you don't have time to call now. But you can have her on your team, whatever your problem. When it comes to this sort of thing. That's why this is called the Debt Relief Radio Show. By the way, she has an email address, haven't even mentioned it, bankruptcytampabay.com.
This is the website.
The website, that's what I meant.
Bankruptcytampabay.com.
Bankruptcytampabay.com if you want to, browse through the website and understand Ziona Kopolovich a little more and how their operation works at Debt Relief Law Offices of Tampa Bay, 5422 Trouble Creek Road, Newport Richey, 727-849-3328. You give her a call. We get a no-cost consultancy.
Consultation. A 1-hour free consultation.
Then we get to work.
But, you gave me an idea. I mean, if anybody wants to email us, they can email to assist at debtrelieftampabay.com.
Assist at Debt Relief.
Assist at debtrelieftampabay.com.
I didn't have that address. I'm glad you gave it. But
you can contact us through the website as well.
Okay. Ziona, thank you. We'll see you in 2 weeks.
My pleasure.
Ziona with the Debt Relief Law Offices,